Self-deprecating humor at its worst is nothing more than a defense mechanism to indicate to the people around you that you're f***ed up because you don't want to risk the possibility of them feeling that you aren't aware of it. Subreddit drama? What? This is drama? Oh, this got pinned. Oh, I saw this. Very nice. This is true, by the way. The virgin self-deprecating humor makes passive suicidalism your mental norm, unleashing your baggage on people who didn't ask for it. Your friends have to fight you on it, makes people hesitantly pity laugh, deep discomfort all around. No, do you get it? Like the joke is that I want to die. Versus the Chad, absurd self-confidence humor. Puts people at ease. People can genuinely laugh because it's so extreme. Gets you more comfortable with even satirical self-confidence. Doesn't require your friends to be unpaid therapists. Bleeds into your social circle, making your friends a lot happier too. I'm a literal god and the best at everything I do. Absolutely. It's just objectively true. I'm sorry. Is there drama over this? Yeah, probably. Folks, depression is valid. Well, no, depression isn't valid. Being depressed is valid. But self-deprecating humor has gone too far, okay? You guys never understood the joke, the gist. Good self-deprecating humor was always done by people who were confident but knew how to subvert it cleverly, you know? When I think of good self-deprecating humor, I think of like early Louis C.K. stuff or like, God, a lot of like Seth Rogen type stuff where underneath it, like you don't really feel too bad for the person because you know that underlying it, there's like this really strong sense of self, you know? But a lot of people do self-deprecating humor and they are legitimately just beating themselves up to an audience. And like, what the fuck do you want us to do? Like, comfort you after? Is that the point of making a joke? By the way, that's why you guys like me, because I do the absurd self-confidence humor. When have you ever watched my stream and watched me like trauma dump on you guys? I don't do it to anyone. You know why? Because apart from it just not being the sort of person that I am, it's inconsiderate. And in the case of my platform, it would trigger a lot of parasocial responses, which I'm really not looking for. But no, the absurd self-confident humor is a really good thing to lean into. By the way, it's funny, it's refreshing. People get insecure listening to it sometimes, but they have to stop with that, okay? Because there's nothing inherently wrong with it. It's just funny. It's good stuff. Let's take a look at the comments and see what the cancellation is. Hold on. What are we doing? This person agrees, so that's nice. A lot of people feel bad about themselves and want to keep it to themselves. They often stay quiet because they don't want their friends to feel like unpaid therapists that they have to just unleash their baggage on. They feel self-conscious and awkward, often feeling that people don't really like them and they make others uncomfortable. It's a generally funny meme, but I think the wording could certainly be more kind/aware of these things. You're right. I've been irresponsible with my platform. It's time. I ate so many chicken nuggets before stream. It's time for the life lesson. Get ready for it, folks. Get ready for the life lesson fueled by nuggies and a lot of hot sauce. I consume more hot sauce every time I have a meal. Every time I have a lunch, the threshold for potential amounts of... What's the chemical? The chemical in hot sauce? What's it called? Scovilles? That's the measurement. It's the capsaicin. Capsaicin, yeah. It's going up, you know, every time. I'm going to give lessons to the people on the left. That's what we're doing right now, okay? 101, the only lesson you'll ever need, all right? Look, I know why you do self-deprecating humor, okay? I know why you do, all right? Your feelings are complex, internal, and unrealized. You can't just blurt them out because that'd be really awkward, and that's true. So you try to find ways to express your feelings in socially normalized settings. Doing so through jokes is about the most socially normalized way of expressing your sadness there is because comedy blunts the edge. The fact of the matter is, it doesn't work. For a number of reasons. First of all, there are only two possible outcomes here. One of them is that your friends are too stupid to realize that what you're saying is signifying some underlying hurt, in which case all they're getting are bad jokes. You realize they're bad jokes, right? It's jokes where you're just talking shit about yourself, unless you're very good at them, aren't really funny on their own, especially if there's actual trauma underlying them. Humor is subjective, lol. Keep coping. If there's real trauma underlying it, and this is meant to be some covert way of expressing negative feelings that you have, you're probably more focused on the underlying feelings than the delivery of the joke. Or let me put it another way, okay? You all watched Inside? Jesus Christ, this is so narcissistic. Feeling called out right now. God, I can read you people like books. Just chill out, okay? If you've watched Inside or anything by Bo Burnham, this dude is a master of self-deprecating jokes, is he not? And they signify real hurt, do they not? This guy isn't some like booming, confident, charismatic orator who's making jokes at himself because he knows he's this titan. His skits are uncomfortable to watch, aren't they? Yeah, they are. I mean, they're really good. Don't get me wrong. I mean, he's very talented. They're funny and they're interesting, but they can be difficult to watch sometimes because they're very real and very raw, and the hurt that he expresses can sometimes be very relatable. There's a difference between what he's doing and what a lot of you guys are doing when you do self-deprecating humor. Part of it is the fact that he's a professional comedian, which helps. All the jokes that he makes in his sets have been practiced, tried, refined, written, rewritten, and rewritten again. So, you know, there's a bit of a performative element that's pushing up the quality of the content. But the other thing is, you're not friends with Bo Burnham. I'm sorry to drop this on you guys, but you're just his audience. Which means that when he delivers this information, it is meant to be a sincere conveyance of these feelings that he has, but he's not looking to you for unpaid therapy. You know what you're getting with Bo Burnham. You know what he's about once you've seen his specials. You know that he's funny and smart and sad, and you know that he plays all those together into music and other things. You know what you're getting. And I think that's acceptable. But in an interpersonal setting with friends, you're asking a lot of your friends if every time you open your mouth, you're asking them to be in the mindset for a Bo Burnham special, but less funny and about a person they care about. You know what I mean? You're like every time you make one of these jokes, you're essentially like wrenching them over to a YouTube video and giving them like a less funny iteration of media that's already difficult to consume at times. And it's about a person you care about. I can watch Bo Burnham talk about his suicidal impulses and feel distanced enough because he's not my friend. He's a comedian. He's doing this from a distance, both literal and emotional. If a friend of mine was making jokes like that, I'm not going to entertain this. I'm not going to just uncomfortably laugh and reflect on the, you know, the emotional depth of the hurt or whatever. I'm going to be upset and I'm going to see what's up with them. And guys, if you people who do your self-deprecating jokes, have you ever had somebody take the bait in a way you didn't expect to? Made a self-deprecating joke about suicide or self-harm, and then they're like, "Oh my God, do you wanna kill yourself? Well, you don't actually want to do that, do you?" I bet yeah, it's happened to at least a few of you. Now, did that feel good? I bet it felt good to have attention paid to you, but it didn't feel good to suddenly see this emotional like backlash in your friend, you know, like and imagine how it feels for them. I mean, holy shit! Like, imagine, yeah, calling their bluff. Exactly. I've been the person who's concerned by that, and is it not exhausting, NK Ghidorah? I mean, yeah, right, pessimist? Is it not like, look, it is tiring. And I've been the emotional sponge for people before because I'm a very stoic person, so I have a lot of sponge with which to absorb, you know? There's a point where it stops being the occasional friendly, you know, expression of uncontained emotion and starts to be like habit building. Because what a lot of you guys need to understand is humans can't actually get anything out of our system, okay? There's only one thing that humans can get out of our systems, and it's nut when you want to jerk it. That's it. Apart from that, all the behavior that we engage in builds patterns. Oh, yeah, and pooping. Sorry. Apart from things you're literally expelling, behavior builds patterns. And you guys know this if you've ever tried to stop a bad habit, huh? You don't just try the drug the one time. You can do it just once and then like stop, but you're not getting it out of your system, are you? You're doing it once and then stopping. And oftentimes people don't stop. What about staying up later? Do you do it to get out of your system? Oh, I've been wanting to stay up later. Let me get it out of my system. No! Then it makes it harder to fall asleep at a reasonable hour the next night? What about eating? Whether you eat a little or eat a lot, you don't get it out of your system. You set a pattern. We're like engines. We're pattern seeking and pattern making machines. And when we engage in behavior, we make it more likely we'll do it in the future. What about violence? Getting violence out of your system. Has that ever worked? No. When you punch a wall after losing a game of League of Legends, are you making it less or more likely that you'll do it again in the future? You're making it more likely. You build patterns. There is nothing in your brain that has a finite concentration that can be expelled through an action and then won't return. That does not happen. You build patterns. And trust me, a pattern you do not want to build is turning all of your friends into makeshift therapists, because it makes you intolerable to be around. It'll make it harder to make friends in the future because you can't make new friends anymore, can you? New friends don't know you well enough to be good emotional sponges, so you lose the ability to form new bonds. All you have are your old friends, the number of which will grow thinner and thinner and thinner as more of them realize that in the grand math of friend keeping, you take from them far more than you give. Trust me, this doesn't work out in favor of anyone. And friendship is a two-way street. It's not selfish for friends to want to cut off toxic influences. So don't be a toxic influence. Which you are if you're trying to bait out emotional comfort by joking about self-harm or suicide or depression. Now, you can talk about these things, but you have to do it in the right context. If you're feeling depressive, I strongly suggest you talk about it frankly. Don't joke about it. Don't introduce the ambiguity of intent. Talk about it frankly. Is that more uncomfortable sometimes? Yeah, but it can also elicit more consistent and fair responses. If you joke about depression with your friends, depending on how stupid your friends are, they can play up those jokes years without ever understanding there's anything real underneath it. They can think that your jokes are just a drag on the mood and distance themselves from you. But if you speak about it frankly, I'll say this much. I wouldn't have an issue with people dropping a friend if they spent years and years building up their self-deprecating suicide jokes, but I would judge a person for dropping a friend who frankly stated they were feeling suicidal and depressive. That is not something people should lose friends over, and I bet your friends will agree. Maybe your bad friends won't, but I think your real friends, if you're blessed enough to have any, will agree with that, and you can have a frank conversation about these feelings. And I've talked about this before with regards to masculinity and the way it makes it hard for men to do this in particular. If you want something from your friends, just ask them. Guys, simple as this. I'm feeling really down tonight. I know that you had this thing planned. Do you think you'd be willing to hang out, either in person or online, play a game, whatever? Just ask. Maybe they won't be able to. If they're respectful, but they're not able to, then they'll try to compensate for it later, perhaps, because I'd be willing to bet the majority of people watching right now do have friends who love and care about them, yeah. And maybe you'll get something out of it. You don't want to overly tax them, of course. See, oftentimes when you're in this position, you end up pulling from them too much and you introduce a new element to your depression. You feel guilty because you're taking too much from them, right? And that can end up exacerbating depression. So you get in this really weird contradictory cycle where you feel depressive and you ask your friends for help, or you joke about it, or you talk about it, or whatever, but you do it over and over and over again, and they're your only outlet for emotional health, and you have nothing else. And you take and you take and you take. And then you feel guilty. Even if your friends are willing to meet that burden, you feel guilty because you know you're being a burden to them. There are ways to mitigate this. You know what one of them would be? Try to do for your friends what they do for you, even if you're feeling depressive. Bake them some brownies. Seriously, if they live nearby, whatever. Make a little thing for them. Be kind to them in little ways. Indicate to them that they're not just a sponge. Show them that even if you're not at peak right now, you can express to them the sincerity of your feelings. Like, if you're feeling depressive and you think, I could really, really go to play Overwatch with my friends right now, And maybe your friends are busy. You know what you can do? You can make something for them in that time. I know that feels weird, and it's like, oh, wow, that's the solution to depression, to do things for other people. Sometimes, yeah, actually. Actually, yes, sometimes that can do it. Haven't you seen that episode of The Last Airbender with Uncle Iroh, Tales of Ba Sing Se? Sometimes the best way to help your own problems is to help others. Show your friends you care about them by doing a little thing for them, and they'll remember that, and they'll see that, and they'll think, oh, yeah, uh, this isn't just a one-way thing. Now, keep in mind, nothing that I'm saying right now is like a solution to depression. I'm not capable of providing you that. I'm only saying there are patterns that you can develop to have a more positive relationship with your friends vis-a-vis self-care. And I think that these are some of the ways that you can do that. So think about it, at least. Try to incorporate some of that behavior, you know? And maybe a little bit of absurd self-confidence can work. I know you've heard this a billion times, but fake it till you make it is, unfortunately, how confidence works. I know that seems impossible and unfathomable and unimaginable. Fake it till you make it, that's cope, whatever. It's actually literally not. It literally is the way that it happens. Because confidence is, how do I put this? Okay, you know how depression lies to you? Like, depression lies to you about your self-worth and your ability to do things. It'll tell you people hate you when they don't. You know, like, depression lies to you. Depression and the stuff that you tell yourself when you're depressed are literally imbalances in your brain chemistry trying to legitimize the incorrect ways that you feel about yourself. Now, arrogance is the same, kind of in the opposite direction, though you can be arrogant and depressive because they aren't exactly overlapping and like contradictory positions. But arrogance in a similar way can lead people to warp their self assessment. Now, confidence isn't like those things. See, confidence actually has nothing to do with what you're capable of doing. Confidence is not a direct reflection of your competence. A person can be incompetent and still be very justifiably confident. A person can be incapable, physically unathletic, and still be confident with their skills on the court. A person can be a dumbass and be confident about a test they're going to take. Confidence isn't delusion. Confidence is an attitude that you take towards the things you do. Confidence isn't doing better than you can. Confidence is knowing that you'll do your best. Confidence isn't playing the best on the court. Confidence is having the best attitude on the court. Confidence is not synonymous to ability. All of you are capable of being justifiably confident. Do you understand? It is a skill that you can learn, and the world would be better if everyone was confident. You understand? Confidence isn't some lofty ideal that only the best of us should be able to taste. Everyone should be confident. And in many ways, confidence can, yes, come from introspection and a reflection and meditation on one's failures. I am a decently confident person, but I make jokes about myself all the time on stream. They're not self-deprecating jokes, not in the depressive way at least, because the jokes are, if anything, an affirmation of self-confidence. Is not the most confident person the kind of person who can criticize themselves and feel amazing afterwards? Recognizing a fault and then immediately correcting it, or trying to, without feeling bad about yourself. This is the apex of confidence. It's the reason why confidence is the best way at getting better at anything. People think that debasing yourself will get you better at stuff, but that's not true. Confidence gets you better at stuff because self-debasement leads you away from the elements of yourself that you should focus on. You're so caught up in the negative feelings that you can't meaningfully improve. You ruin the math. But confidence keeps you dead centered on the math and keeps your attitude going during it. So the next time you are feeling down and with friends, try confidence. You're not going to instantly become some mega giga Chad or whatever, but think of elements of yourself and try to think of them confidence through comedy. What is comedy? Comedy is a form of communication, and confidence is expressed through communication, body language, verbal language. Comedy is a great way of testing what you can feel confident about. When you're alone, at night or in the morning in the shower, okay? Think of conversations you might have with other people. Think of your friends and your family, okay? Think of jokes you might make about yourself. Which jokes could you make about yourself that you would feel good about making, are confident? Like, run through them a bit. I think about this stuff all the time because I like talking. So when I'm not talking, I think about talking. When you have the opportunity to, think about it. I have X many friends. I have this many family members. I have these teachers, these bosses, these coworkers. Talk with them in your heads. And imagine making a joke which is positive and self-affirming to them. Do any of them sound good? Some of them won't to anyone. Like for me, for example, you know what I mean? To me, making like a super like confident joke about how manly I am. I guess I'm probably more masculine than most people, but something about that just never rang like positive to me. I don't know. It seems kind of weird and overcompensatory, at least to me, you know? I don't know if that one would play very well. A joke about my height could be okay, but I'm only moderately tall, 6'2", not giga tall. Radio voice. Now that's a good one. Ever since I've started working, ever since high school, when I would serve customers, not a week would go by without somebody asking if I did radio. I know that sounds conceited, but that is legitimately true. About once a week, that would happen, you know? And for that reason, I can make jokes about my voice in either direction, self-deprecating or self-congratulatory, without it ever really ringing that weird to the people around me, because it's just an element of my character that people have come to accept. You know what I mean? But you can take it further than that. It doesn't have to be something you're super good at or well known about. In fact, the best self-confident humor does the opposite. You take things that you're bad at and make jokes about how good you are at them. If you do them properly, you don't come off as delusional. You come off as self-aware and uplifting, you know? So, for example, I'll give you two people, all right? Two short men. I've known plenty of short guys. Plenty of them get laid. Some of them don't. I don't know. Seems like a lot of it's personality driven. But say you have like a 5'2" guy. Now, being a short guy, you know, can weigh on you in some ways. Because short guys get treated bad sometimes. Imagine one who's confident about it and one who makes self-deprecating jokes about it. Imagine being in a friend group with a short guy, and every once in a while he'll make self-deprecating jokes about how some other guy only got a girlfriend because he's taller than this guy is. Imagine making self-deprecating jokes when you're around women and, you know, the women are like able to reach something high up and he's like, "Oh, you know, I would be able to do that for you if I wasn't so short." Yeah, I've been around people like that. Now, of course, it's very uncomfortable being around people who are airing their insecurities like that. But if you're with a short guy who's able to make jokes about it in a positive and affirmative way, it indicates that they don't actually care about it. And if they can do that, other people stop caring about it as well, you know? It's like this with almost any negative trait. If you're actually being down on yourself for characteristics that aren't really your best feature, it doesn't really make people think favorably of you. I've seen people make self-deprecating jokes about their acne when they have really bad acne. Why? You draw attention to it. You're clearly trying to preempt others' opinions of you. It's almost like an apology. You make a self-deprecating joke about a characteristic, so you make sure other people know you're aware of your faults, like a defense mechanism. But that's really uncomfortable. All of this is contextual. There are ways to do this stuff poorly or better, but it's not great. So try absurd self-confidence now and again. You know? When you're playing video games online and you're not that great at them, you know, don't apologize for your performance. Celebrate the little things that you do get right. When you're talking with your friends and comparing your various achievements, don't try to stack up to them, because people who are depressed are very bad at accurately assessing their benefits. But instead try to think something meaningful to you, or something you think would be meaningful to them oftentimes. See yourself through the eyes of your friends. That can be really helpful. You have to look at the world in a different way, because self-deprecating humor at its worst is nothing more than a defense mechanism to indicate to the people around you that you're fucked up, because you don't want to risk the possibility of them feeling that you aren't aware of it. Like, you're signaling to people, I know I'm like this, I know. But that's no way to live. And I know people who do that, and it sucks, and nobody wants to be around them because they're a drag. Stop apologizing. Be confident. Find little jokes that you can implement. Find things about yourself that you like, and learn to enjoy the process of self-accreditization, self-congratulation, as opposed to its outcome. I take great joy in making jokes about how amazing I am at Bloodborne, okay? Now, none of you, even for a moment, are believing any of that bullshit. But it is a joke that I will continue to propagate for as long as I have this channel. After all, there would be a pretty big difference between me making this joke and a person making this joke if they were the second world record winner, right? You understand what I mean there? So I can make this joke because I finished the game in 2021. But if there was a close race to see who finished it first, and one person came in second by a minute or so, if they made that joke, wouldn't that come off a little salty? It would, wouldn't it? So in a way, that person being more competent than me actually makes their confidence less warranted. You see what I mean about competence and confidence not being the same thing or being influenced by each other directly? It's a careful game, and nobody's a god at humor, and I don't make bangers every time, but it's something to take into consideration, okay? That's enough. All right. Nicely done.